Welcome to the commentary booth, where we watch, and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play-by-play commentator, Jamie Apps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by an impact fee technician who lists their favourite movie as A Nightmare on Elm Street and favourite TV show as Golden Girls. Welcome back to the show, Callina Mabey.
Hello. Hello.
She sits over there preparing to take off. Oh, the sounds of things.
Shut up. Oh my god. I'm extremely sorry for everybody who can hear that like high-speed whistling sound because my PlayStation is updating and it's at a
PlayStation 4, just so everyone knows, that's why it's so loud.
My PlayStation 4 Pro. The normal one doesn't do that. It's just the fucking Pro. And I'm sorry that I don't have the funding or the support / sponsorship to get a PS5 yet. Okay, I'm working on it. So yeah, apologies for that, but it never usually updates at this time of day. So go us. It's just, you're lucky.
The original PS4 used to make that noise.
Oh, well, Chloe's hasn't done that yet. So that'll be fun for her to wake up in the middle of the night to hear.
She starts playing some intense games, it's gonna sound even worse than the Pro.
My child she just plays Genshin. Oh, Genshin will do it. Yeah, because every time she plays Genshin in my room, my mom hears it from like the living room. So she's literally like, what the fuck's going on there? And Chloe's like, I'm just playing the game.
Mm-hmm. Outside of that, this week we're checking out a unique new supernatural thriller by Steven Soderbergh, who is most famous for Erin Brockovich, Traffic, 2 weeks in a row that's come up, the Ocean series, Contagion, and Magic Mike. He also has another film coming later this year called Black Bag. But this time around, Presence, it's a unique thriller that tells the story of a family of 4 who move into a new home, only to sort of begin to realize that there is a presence or ghost already there. However, what makes this film so special and different is that it is presented from the perspective of said ghost. So we never actually sort of get the perspective of the new residents. We just have this handheld floating camera that doesn't speak, doesn't do any, doesn't like, I guess it kind of interacts with some things, but it's just there, and we get to see how this story plays out from its perspective.
Yes.
Cast-wise, we have Lucy Liu playing the mother Rebecca, Chris Sullivan playing the father Chris. That was a difficult thing for him to grasp there with the new name.
Yeah.
Callina Liang as the daughter Chloe, Eddy Maday as the son Tyler, and West Mulholland as Tyler's friend Ryan. Before we dive into this in detail and review it, what did you think of Presence by Steven Soderbergh?
I didn't know what this was. You told me, hey, we're gonna watch this, and I was like, okay, cool. And I knew nothing about it, and cool for me to be completely out of the loop on something. This movie was okay. I had some weird things about it, but it's whatever. It was kind of strange for me to watch it because my daughter's name's Chloe, so that was kind of a weird thing to have to watch that and be like, oh, they did, yeah. Mm-hmm. I was glad, again, I watched this on my lunch break. I watch a lot of movies on my lunch break, and I'm thankful for that because it kind of takes me out of my element at work. So yeah, it was fine. Lucy Liu is the only person that I actually recognize in this movie, and she's a bitch. I fucking hate her. I really wish that like she had fucking gotten killed or something, like not to be an asshole, but like I couldn't stand her. She was a fucking asshole. So yeah, that's my opinion on
I think that's what we're supposed to feel. Her character is not a nice person.
She's a fucking, I can't say the word because we'll get banned on certain platforms, but yeah, she's a word that you guys like to use a lot over there. So that word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, I recognized, obviously Lucy Liu, West Mulholland I recognized as well. I, for some reason, didn't write down things that he's in, but like, he's someone that I also recognized. I don't know why, but I did.
Yeah, this movie, also, yeah, backtracking to Traffic, I feel like we should probably watch Traffic at this point because, yeah, this is the second time that movie has come up in literally like two weeks or whatever. So I feel like that is just this is a sign for us to go watch Traffic now. but this movie is very different than Aaron Brockovich, and I I don't know much about this director other than those movies that you named off. So this is a very different direction, I think, from that.
Yeah, very different from Aaron Brockovich. Very different from the Ocean's 13, 11, 12
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
Totally different from Magic Mike.
I was gonna say I didn't even realize that was the same guy who directed all of those movies. Like Magic Mike is a very different beast, and the fact that it is the same guy who did Aaron Brockovich is kind of strange to me now that I know that.
And like I said, this one is from the first person perspective of the titular presence. What did you think of that whole floating first person camera perspective throughout the
First person filming actually almost makes me kind of motion sickness. I do not play first person shooters very often. Like it's one of those things. Like I'll play them on occasion, but if I have the option to change camera angle to like look at the wide angle of my character running, I prefer that because it's uncomfortable for me. I don't know why. It just makes my stomach kind of queasy. It's also probably why I don't like found footage films a lot. Like Blair Witch and shit like that are not on the top of my list because I just don't really like the way they're filmed. So yeah, that was definitely not a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I don't think this is like anywhere near sort of Blair Witch. Like it's not shaky cam. It's
No, it's
literally
not.
a steady floating camera the whole time. Like it is
Yeah.
a ghostly presence floating about.
Yeah. I appreciate the fact that it wasn't like the found footage necessarily, but I don't know why. I just never am a fan of not being able to see like the entire surroundings and in background and stuff. It's weird to me. Like I like to know what's going on in my entire like 360.
What I liked most about it is it kind of encourages you to consider the camera as its own sort of character, and particularly sort of the way it reacts to some certain things, like when it's like looking through stuff on uh,
Mhm.
Chloe's bed, and then like she comes out of the bathroom and it like scurries away like really quickly, or
Yeah.
there's an argument downstairs between the parents and it like bolts back up the stairs.
Yep.
It's like it makes you sort of look at it and go, "Oh, this is a character in this house as well. It's not
Mhm.
just a camera floating around and that's all."
Yeah. Yeah, it does have it's weird how it actually projects like a personality almost, even though it's not. I feel like I would love to have seen like the like behind the scenes of how that was just like filmed, like just seeing like this camera arm just like all over the place and people having to like duck around it or something. But I'm guessing that's not how that was filmed. Was it a drone? Did they use a
Mm-mm.
drone for this? No. Okay. Well, we'll get into that, I guess.
Steven Soderbergh, the director, personally filmed this holding the camera himself, like handheld filmed the vast majority of the movie himself.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. I'll give him that. That is very impressive because the way that it is such a smooth transition around the entire set, it makes you feel like you are either watching drone footage or it is just like an arm camera attachment. Like it
I
is
imagine it
very
was probably on
smooth.
like one of those body chest mounted like gimbal things, so it is
Yeah,
super steady the whole time. But yeah, he
that's
personally
impressive.
filmed a vast majority of it, which is unusual for a director. Normally, a director's sitting off to the side and giving every person directions. But I think that sort of plays into a lot of the composition as well of the movie. Like it's very sort of theatrical in terms of there are not a lot of cuts in this. So like
Hmm.
everybody had to know these aren't short scenes. Like the opening scene is probably 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And we go from room to room of the house as the family are sort of looking through it and deciding, yes, this is where we're going to buy and move into.
Hmm.
Real estate agents there, and the camera's just floating around and like getting to know all of these people. It like goes sees the kids have a conversation, then it just like walks into the dining area in the kitchen and hears the parents having a conversation, then moves around and follows the like real estate agent up the stairs and the kids, and it's just like, yeah, these people had to know big chunks and
Yeah.
do all their blocking, do all their path and like where they had to walk, and the camera had to know, like obviously Steven Soderbergh had to know where the camera was going to be at all times, and it just floats around and it just plays out as this is actually happening, and this camera is just there giving us the sort of fly on the wall perspective.
Yeah, it was really strange. Honestly, when I was watching it, I kind of forgot that I hadn't seen the title like the movie title actually pop up on the screen until it popped up on the screen. And I was like, oh, that hadn't happened yet. Because yeah, like you said, it's a very long like introduction shot, so you feel like you're already invested in the movie before you even know what the title of it is, which is really strange. But it was effective. Like it was interesting.
And yeah, like it's all like single shots too. Like these are
Mm-hmm.
long, extended single camera
Yeah,
shots. There's no cutting. Like there is throughout this movie, there are only 33 hard cuts
that's a
compared
pretty low.
compared to 600 to 700 for a regular movie.
Yeah,
So like yeah, everything feels really deliberate, really authentic and organic. That this is just playing out, and this presence is just there watching.
yeah, it's like very organic and stuff. It is an interesting concept. The real estate agent was honestly, she was kind of sketchy to me. Like I didn't like her either. Like she just seemed very like unprepared. Like she arrived like very last minute to her showing and then was just like bam 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 and I go, "All right, this is either like your first house you're ever selling or you're just like super late to the game and rushing because I've never seen somebody so nervous to sell a fucking house."
And
It's really
she was
strange.
so generic too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It
and she
was
didn't
just
do anything
all
to
of the
set up.
cliches and typical things of like, oh, this house has so much potential and
Potential.
charm. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's just Chat GPT real estate listing 101.
Yeah, and the other thing that I found really weird is that she like made it. She worded it specifically that it wasn't staged or anything, which was kind of interesting because
Yeah,
I know
no shit, there
staging.
was no furniture in there. It
Yeah,
was totally empty.
I was like,
Like
you
you didn't
didn't
need
have
to
to
tell me
say.
that.
Yeah, like, and honestly, like, I don't know how it is over there, but when I was house hunting like a while back, none of the houses I went into were actually staged unless you bought like a new build. Like, they would have like the model center for new builds, but it's very rare to find in like, unless you're looking at like elaborate fucking houses. Most of them are not staged though. So, like, for me, I was like, you didn't have to specify that. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be staged.
The only houses that you'll look at here that have like furniture in them are gonna be, like you said, the like show homes for a new
Mm-hmm.
estate. Like, here's what your house could look like when it's built and
Yeah.
furnished. And the only other option would be if you're looking at a house that someone is still living in
Right.
and like they're waiting for it to sell so then they can move.
Yeah, and also it was weird for me the way that this mirror is introduced into this movie. I really thought this mirror was going to have a lot more uh involvement. We'll put it that way.
It has a pretty big moment at the end.
It does, but like I expected it to be way more involved. And it wasn't because the reason why I thought it was going to be more involved is because it was literally the only piece of fucking furniture that was in the house.
Attached to the wall. They couldn't get it off.
Well, yeah, you could easily remove a mirror. It's fine. But I like it just for me, it almost underwhelmed me with how underutilized it was because they kept staring at it and they kept looking at it, but like nothing really big happened with this mirror until the end of the movie. So I was kind of just like let down a little bit by that. I was expecting more.
Yeah, but then also if they had given us the glimpse of, so I'm going to try not to spoil this movie at all in this review.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they'd shown us any glimpses of who the presence was,
Mm-hmm. It would have given it away
it would
probably.
have ruined the entire mystery
Mm-hmm.
that this movie tries to slowly reveal over the runtime.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, overall, it wasn't a terrible movie. I kind of wanted more from certain parts of it, but I think that's because maybe I am more accustomed to like actual like paranormal, like in your face kind of movies versus like the idea of it being a paranormal, like kind of haunting thing. Like this one doesn't throw it in your face that it's a paranormal haunting. It's just it's alluding to the fact that there's something in there and you don't know what it is, possibly like what it could be.
Yeah, I think like what you're sort of describing is like the contrast between like an Insidious or something like that Conjuring
Mm-hmm.
where it's throwing all of these sort of hints and like jump scary type moments at you.
Sure.
I don't think this is really a horror. This is more of
No.
like a mystery. If anything, this is basically just a drama.
Yeah, it's got like elements of like psychological kind of like or like you said mystery kind of things, but it's nothing crazy. or in your face. It is more or less like about, I feel like this movie does a really good aspect of like what trauma can do to a family. Like this puts into perspective how trauma looks for everybody in a family and how it can affect a family, because you do see the family having their battles essentially between each other, you know. So I feel like that's where this movie kind of takes you out of that scary or like, you know, paranormal kind of idea, and it just puts it into more of a realistic drama effect, like you were saying.
Yeah, like it's listed as a supernatural thriller, but I wouldn't personally describe it that way. I would just say it's a family drama
Yeah.
that just so happens to have a ghost watching the family drama play out.
Yeah.
It's like the Die
Absolutely.
Hard is a Christmas movie thing. No, it just so happens to be Christmas. This one just so happens to have a ghost in it.
You're never going to let that die, are you? Like,
No.
even though the internet has told you that you were fucking wrong, and people that you know have told you that you're fucking wrong, you're still never going to drop it. And it's okay to be wrong, but it's whatever. I mean, my boss agrees with you, and her and I are, you know, we talk about that all the time. She's like, no, Jamie's right. And I'm like, no, he's not, but to each their own. It's okay.
Are you a trading card collector or a fan of Australian pro wrestling? If so, you're not going to want to miss out on the limited edition Australian wrestling cards. Each set includes 50 packs of 10 cards, including some of the country's top wrestling talents like Robbie Eagles, Shane Haste, Madison Eagles, Hartley Jackson, and they have Shaza McKenzie listed, although she is not a favorite. The Velocities, and a lot more. There's wrestlers, referees, announcers, commentators that are featured, giving you a full appreciation of the Australian independent scene. The cards sold out a lot faster because cards are hot right now, as I'm sure Jeremy Lambert will tell you. But you can order your Australian wrestling cards now at Pario Magazine. That's PARIO magazine.com.au/AUS WRES cards. Follow Australian Wrestling Cards on social media at AusResCards for updates. Join the hundreds of fans who have already discovered the excitement of Australian wrestling cards.
Sort of like the story and the mystery that sort of reveals itself at the time. Like it just it leaves you with these questions of like, or opens with the question of what led this family here, because they sort of allude to something traumatic happening that
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to get away from, so they're moving house.
Yeah.
They don't. They slowly start to unravel that and give you the drip feed of what it is. Obviously, with this floating camera presence getting about, that the daughter Chloe like seems to sense it being there. Even one of the painters is like, I'm not going in that room. Like
Yep.
he definitely sensed it.
Yeah.
It sort of gets you to ask like, who is this ghost? Why is this ghost here?
Yeah.
Why is this ghost so protective of Chloe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you really don't know from one moment, like from one scene to the next, if it's going to be like, you know, a violent kind of like poltergeist almost kind of moment, or if it's just going to like sit there and observe things. So, you know, I do like that aspect of it where it kind of just leaves you guessing. Like you see it doing certain things, to certain people, but at the same time it doesn't seem like it wants to cause harm or anything like that. It's not like super vindictive or anything, so it is kind of interesting and kind of a breath of fresh air where it's not necessarily violent, but you also don't know if it's going to be violent. There's scenes where it's like, ooh, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, like we see it sort of interacting with bits and pieces in the house, and you're just kind of like, I don't know what, like, where this is going. Like, is this
Mm-hmm.
going to turn malevolent and evil, or is this just, Casper?
Yeah.
Is this just a friendly ghost that just wants to interact with Chloe for some reason? But, like,
Yeah.
even when they do bring in the psych to try and sort of figure out, like, what is happening here? Like, we're sort of sensing that something's here, but can you come and tell us?
Mm-hmm.
And what really sort of amps up the sort of mystery aspect is when the psychic says that there is something here, but it's here because of something that hasn't happened yet. And you're like, what?
Yeah, that was kind of an interesting comment to make, I guess. I'll be honest, I wasn't a big fan of them introducing the psychic character. Like that character for me kind of fell flat. Like I felt like she was almost over trying to oversell it, kind of. And I don't know if it was just the script and the way it was written, or if it was just the way that she came across. But yeah, she seemed kind of like she was just was a forced kind of character. And not that it wasn't necessary, but I don't think like it added anything to the story. Like I could have done without a psychic being brought into the movie, honestly.
Yeah, I think the main reason she was brought in was just for that one specific line of they're here because of something that hasn't happened yet. And you're like,
Yeah.
what? Is this going to go like sort of interstellar-y on me and have like some sort of weird like time mechanic? And
Yeah.
my first thought was like, is this the ghost of Chloe and it's trying to prevent itself from dying?
Yeah, like one of those weird things where like you know you've seen yourself die or something like that. So like how can I alter that from happening further? Which would have been a fun twist. But I do, to be fair, this movie as many as much as I didn't, it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to. It did have a nice plot twist towards the end. Like I kind of saw it coming, but I liked it.
I didn't think it was going to go as dark as it did.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to get sort of date rapey
Mm-hmm.
and sexual assault. And it got
Yeah.
much darker than that. It got into potential serial killery territory.
Yeah, it was the I did, like I said, I did enjoy the plot twist on that. I saw where it was heading and I was like, oh, that's I kind of had the same mindset that you did, but I liked how they kind of did a twist on it. The ending for me, like the last 20-ish minutes, it kind of like sealed the fact that I didn't hate the movie. It actually was kind of like a saving grace for me. Because this movie is very slow paced. I think that was my problem with it, is that even though it's not a super long movie, the pacing of it felt very long and drawn out.
Yeah, I think that's partially because of like the way it portrays the presence of it's not really having an impact on the story. It's just
Right.
kind of observing and seeing it play out. And then when you get into that sort of crescendo penultimate scenes,
Yep.
that's when it gets really intense and really sort of stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And the penultimate scene where it all sort of comes to a head and the
Yep.
presence has to begin to intervene a lot.
Yes.
That is so difficult to watch.
It was a lot. It's kind of overwhelming. I feel like parts of it could have been overwhelming. I'm glad that it didn't go any further than what it did.
It went pretty far.
It was bordering pretty far. Like I said, I'm glad it didn't exceed where it went to, because I feel like that would have been almost too much. But yeah, no, it was a good way of how they wrapped it. I'll put it that way. Like they definitely did a really well ending to it. It wasn't like a shit ending. Yeah, wrapped it all up. Whatever.
Wrapped it in glad
Yeah.
wrap.
Yeah. Well, you know, I wasn't trying to insert puns.
Psycho serial killer turn that is.
I wasn't trying to fucking make a pun or, you know, insinuate anything.
I know,
was
but
just saying,
you did unintentionally.
Unintentionally. I do that a lot. I'm sorry. Well, you said no spoilers, so I wasn't trying to do anything or say anything. I was just
I'm not
saying.
I'm not saying like who it was, but like what a serial killer weapon and method of killing choice that is. That is scary as.
Well, and the way it happens is even more crazy, because honestly, I had never thought about that. And like, I watch a lot of true crime shit. Like, I am one of those like stereotypical true crime girlies, but I'm not like, you know, one of those like fangirls, like, oh my God, yes, please, Ted Bundy, come back to life. Like, I recognize that they're fucking psychopaths, but that is like such a diabolical method of going about things. And the fact that it is such
a simple thing.
Yeah, such a simple thing that nobody would really think about. But now that it's out there, I'm like, I wonder if there is anybody that's actually attempted that, like any psychopaths
was this
that are out there.
inspired by someone?
Right, like someone either that hasn't been caught, or like, God forbid this ever inspired somebody. Like, Jesus Christ, please don't. But it is kind of like crazy to think about how simple of a thing that everybody has in their fucking house can just literally be the death of you.
The way that like they sort of torture the victim as well. I was like, Jesus Christ, that's where it got real heavy for me, when it's like this person is clearly suffocating with glad wrap across their face.
Yeah.
And then the person just peels it up. Like, it's like, what the
It's like you're giving them hope, to just like hold out, and like you're enjoying watching them slowly just like completely go out of it. And it's very different because, you know, stereotypically, like we see in a lot of movies, that when people suffocate, it's because they have a bag put over their head. You know, that's like the stereotypical thing, like, oh, why don't they just pop a hole through the bag and stuff like that. But in this movie we see that that's kind of not an option. And just a simple little thing of fucking plastic wrap could literally be worse than anything else. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, and like with the sort of the drugging part that takes place, like, yeah, like the person says, the cops aren't going to question that. They're just going to, oh, they just OD'd.
Yeah, and it's really simple because if someone's vulnerable and they're in a vulnerable state, then they can easily be manipulated and taken advantage of. You know, so it's this movie it hits a lot of points that are real.
An autopsy would show the exact same thing, like, oh, they suffocated. And it's like, yeah, because they OD'd and choked on their own tongue.
Yeah. Which is it's diabolical to even think about, but it's completely true, and it's completely normal cause of death too, like for somebody to have that happen. So yeah, this movie it is a very real kind of feeling of like that is a very real possibility. I feel like, yeah, if also if you are triggered by like any of that kind of stuff, like the potential of a date rape, drug, or anything like that, like proceed with caution on this one too, because it is kind of intense on that note.
And even like it touches on like emotional manipulation and gaslighting as well. Like it's
Absolutely.
that last like you said, 20 minutes is definitely the best part of the movie, but it's easily the most intense and traumatizing as well.
Yeah. This movie, like I said, it's a very slow burn, but then yeah, it ends and it comes together so well. And it really did end on an interesting note. The way that they wrapped it all up again. But yeah, like it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, I loved like the slow burn aspect just because it made me connect with the ghost, which is super weird because it's just like as you're watching it, you're kind of the ghost, really.
Yeah, and you can see like I feel like it almost takes on that whole like persona of like you can see that, you know, Chloe is kind of definitely alienated a bit, and she's in her own kind of world and dealing with her own stuff, and you know, she's not really getting the attention that she I think needs, and so the ghost in a way kind of I feel tries to help her in that sense. So yeah, it's kind of a weird concept. It is a interesting concept, and I don't feel like I've ever seen anything quite like it on film. So I liked that as well.
And then yeah, like you said, the mirror plays a major part in the finale. Like the final scene basically is someone actually finally looking into that mirror and seeing who the presence is and just totally breaking down. Like that's an intense moment when that mirror finally comes into play. Like, oh.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming at some point. I knew someone was going to see who the ghost was. I just didn't know who, when, and where.
Right.
And yeah, for me, I thought this was like a simple, tragic but harrowing movie. And I think why I connected with it maybe the most is my previous experiences with my dad and the presence that I felt from him as well. So I think maybe that's why I connected with this one so much. It's just like I kind of have the Chloe feelings of like there's something here.
Yeah. Which is fun. Like I feel like regardless of what people say, like I feel like there is like I don't know, there's always shit that we can't explain. Like we had it where like my grandfather passed away like ages and ages ago. And for like an entire like year our garage smelled like Old Spice. Don't know why. That's what he used to wear after the aftershave. We had no Old Spice because there was no men in my fucking house. Like I had 0 men in my fucking house growing up. And my grandpa died in fucking 2 hours away. So like, don't know how Old Spice landed in my garage, but that happened. So there are like little things. And like, I feel like if you've had any of those kind of like little, like unexplainable things that happen, then, you know, you'll probably like connect with it a little bit better, and you'll kind of like the way that it's filmed and the way that it shows that, because it's not in your face scary. It's just kind of like knowing that something's there.
Yeah, like don't go into this expecting, like we said, Insidious,
No.
Conjuring, or like even a Paranormal Activity. It's not really those. It is much more drama focused. But so far, it has done really well.
Okay.
Budget $2 million and had an opening weekend in the States of $3.4 million. So they've basically already recouped all of their money.
Yeah.
So very good start for it. And yeah, like I said, filmed primarily by Soderbergh in handheld, 100-minute movie with only 300 cuts. Ridiculous. Like that, I think, contributes to that slow pace feeling as well.
Yes.
And yeah, shot in only 3 weeks.
That's crazy to think that it was only a 3-week shooting. Like, yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Like, especially with how elaborate some of these really long extended scenes are. Like one person stuffs that up, start again.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts. I will say, I think my favorite thing about this is actually the house. I like the element of the house. It just, I don't know why, but I feel like having having an older 2-story house kind of like, helps feed into that like eerie kind of like presence and feeling and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed actually the set of anything. And the stained glass window that is in Chloe's room is absolutely gorgeous. And I 100% thought that was going to also be incorporated somehow. But I'm kind of glad it didn't get ruined because it was beautiful.
So in terms of a rating, what would you give Presents?
For me, this one's a 3, but it's only because I don't feel like I appreciated it probably as much as other people might. For me, it was just such a slow burn. Like I said, my saving grace for it is the last 20 minutes was a really great plot twist to it and stuff like that. But I just I didn't feel a super big connection to a lot of the characters. The mom's a right bitch. Like I can't stand her. And I cannot stand the way that she treats her children.
Or at least one of her children.
Even both of them. I feel like she's very overwhelming as a person. Like she has a very strong personality and she is like almost too much. And she tries to be like that cool mom.
Yeah, I think like, yeah, she's overbearing on her son, like expecting the absolute best from him and then yeah, being the cool mom. And then she's the rat bitch to Chloe.
Yeah, it's like she forgets
and then
she
the
has
dad
one of her
is
kids.
kind of the flip side.
Yeah, so like I said, for me, it's like there are certain elements of this that I just wasn't a fan of, but again, that's personal preference. But yeah, the story was it wasn't bad, and the ending was great. So yeah, for me, it's like a solid 3, borderline 4.
And I think yeah, maybe going into that not having any idea what it was about probably didn't help.
That probably too. It was kind of just like, hey, we're gonna watch this, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna watch this because I listened to you apparently, which is a bad thing to do. I should never just listen to you all willy nilly. I should probably research things, but whatever. It's my fault.
Yeah. So I gave this a 4 out of 5. I thought it offered a ghost story unlike any other, which sort of blended that mystery and emotion element with Steven Soderbergh's sort of very signature style. For me, this is not just a thriller, it's an experience. Like this is one where you have to be in the right mindset and lock in and just go on that journey with the ghost, with the presence.
Yeah.
Watch it play out.
Yeah, had I known what point of view it was supposed to be filmed from, I probably would have rated this higher. So yeah, you should at least y'all know now that it's filmed from the point of view of the presence that's in the house and not just a random camera angle.
Alrighty, thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow Corrina on Instagram at Miss Callina Renee, and you can follow me on social media at Jamie Apps Media and at Pario Magazine. The commentary booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.